Good evening, ladies. How are you doing tonight? I hope you're doing well. Hasn't it been just a wonderful weather week? I can't get over how gorgeous it has been. Alrighty. I will give you a moment to get on, because I am right on time tonight. Tonight's card, it's a fancy fold, but it's also going to use some heat embossing. So I'm going to show you a technique with that. And this card is so pretty once we're going to be done with it. Hi, Lori. How's your brother doing? I hope he's doing better. Okay, I'm going to lower the camera just a little bit so that you're actually able to see more of what I'm about to do. There we go. Excellent. So happy to hear that. Okay, so our card tonight is a fun fold, and it's a window card. Hi, Jeannie. And we're going to do some heat embossing. And Patty's here too tonight. Okay, excellent. And you will need a circle die. I am using the largest and then the second largest from a set that is called Stylish Shapes Dies. And I believe this one is still available. I mean, it's good. This is a good one. So you're going to have all of these squares. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, 5 circles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 6 circles. And then you're going to have 4 banners. So I am using the circles, the largest and the second largest. Okay. So you will need your base. I cut my base at 4 1/4 by 11, and then I scored at 5 1/2 so that it will actually be a top folding card. So let me wiggle that out of my way for a second. And I should have put that you needed a piece of the same pattern paper at 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to give you a hot second if you want to pull your paper that you used for the front. That is 4 by 5 1/4. You will need that same pattern at 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. You're going to need a circle cut from that second ring. So I'm just going to put that right back on so I don't lose it. And then you're going to need a piece of white that is 5 1/4 by 8, and then it's scored at 4 6 inches, which is what's going to create this pretty piece that we're going to need. Okay, so we're going to start with that. I'm going to start by placing my 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. And that piece is going to go right here. And actually, I think I want it a little bit smaller. Than 5 1/4. I think I'm going to cut this down to 5, just so that it is a nice little border here. So I'm going to just quickly slice off just a little. So it is 1 3/4 by 5 inches now. So let's grab some adhesive, and I am going to put this on this white piece first. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so it's centered right in between, so I have that nice 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. So I'm going to move this out of my way, And I'm going to bring in that large piece of pattern paper that is 4 by 5 1/4. And my card base. So again, my card base is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2, so that it will be a top folding flip. Okay. Now we're going to take this pattern piece and we're going to put it onto the front of our card. But when we're adhering it, we only want to adhere around the outer edge. Do not put anything on the interior edge. So I have it all the way around. And now I'm just going to place this onto the front of my card, making sure I have that nice little 1/8 of a border all the way around. Okay, now I'm going to open up my card base, which has this, and what I'm going to do is I am going to center, but I want to kind of go a high center. I don't want to be centered. I'm going to actually be more at the top third of my card, and I'm going to place it on so that I'm eyeballing that my sides have about the same border, but my top is a little less than what my bottom is. And I'm going to put a piece of washi tape to hold my circle die down. Ooh, washi tape needs to be a fresh piece. Okay. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. And I just have it right behind me. Okay. And now I'm just going to carefully remove my washi tape. Very carefully. So all of this now has stuck to the top of the front of the card. Let me just carefully remove my washi. So now the beauty is I can either keep this, because then this white one will be going on top, or I can peel this off. And remember when I said don't put the adhesive on the inside? This is why, because we want this circle to be footloose and fancy free so that we're not harming the yellow, which would be the base of my card, because this is really what it's going to look like, just like so. Okay, so I'm going to set my card base aside. I'm going to set my yellow circle, the pattern or the colored circle aside, and I want to pull in the white circle. So if you have not done that, you want that to be done with your second to largest of whichever dies that you're using as far as circle. Let's say you didn't do circle, you chose to do a rectangle or a square or whatever shape you chose. Just make sure that they are stackable, because you do want to be able to have that variance, okay? So I'll give you a hot second to get that done. And while you're doing that, I am going to get my stamp. And I am using, it's called Friendship Bouquet, and it was a stamp of the month from Close to My Heart. And I just felt it went so appropriate with this paper. And I'm going to kind of put it like so. And I think I'm going to put some words down at the bottom. So I'm going to get all of this on my base, or on this white circle. I was looking for a block. All right, so I'm going to put all of that now onto my block. And by placing it all onto my circle, it really helped to make sure everything is going to be centered the way that I want it. Now I'm going to use an ink pad that is called a Versa Mark. What that is going to be a watermark pad. When I go to stamp it, you're not going to see it right away because it is clear. This is where now bringing in that heat embossing using an embossing powder, that's the best ink for it. So I'm going to take the lid off. I'm going to ink up my stamp. Now, you will want to be careful as you are stamping or inking this up because it is a juicier ink pad than a regular heat pad or a regular ink. Okay, and now I'm going to line this up and I'm going to press, and I'm going to make sure that I give it a good second or so, and I'm going to just walk it with my fingers just to make sure that I'm getting everything on. Okay, so now I'm going to peel that off, which I don't think you'll be able to see. I'm not sure. You may or may not be able to see. Nope, you can't see that. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to bring my what I just stamped, and I'm putting this inside a coffee filter, and I'm going to use embossing powder, and I'm going to sprinkle, and you don't need much, and I will put the rest what I tap off. We'll go back into the jar. And I should have used my embossing buddy so that I don't have all this excess. All right, let's grab a little paintbrush. And I'm just going to brush those extra bits away. So if you have like an anti-static pouch, I would recommend using that. I would not recommend blowing on it because you're just going to get it everywhere and that will create such a mess. I need a little bit more down here on the word much. Oh, that's better. Yeah, I should have used that, but it'll be okay. This is just one of those little artisan brushes. Okay, let's just add a little here. Okay, I am going to cap up the embossing powder, and I'm going to remove all of this off of my desk. Because now I'm going to bring in the heat tool, so you won't be able to hear me as we heat this up. But what's going to happen is we're going to get this beautiful silver shiny image. So I'm going to constantly be moving my heat gun all the way around. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom to the top to the bottom. So I'm going to turn it on now. And it does get very, very hot. There we go. I'm just going to turn it a little. It's like magic. It's so great. Okay, so now it's completely shiny. Can you see how shiny that is? It's so lovely. So what I was thinking was, what if we use a little bit of honey butter and then a blending brush, and I need a scrap piece of paper because I don't have one sitting in front of me. Let's grab one. There we go. And I want to pounce it off a little. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my coloring from the inside of the sunflower out. Oh, that's looking great. And again, I'm just focusing on the inside of the flower, the center, and I'm making sure that that is like the darkest, the deepest possible spot. And then I'm just going to bring it all the way out. I'm going to use a circular motion. And there we can see how we have this sort of a variegated coloring. Doesn't that look beautiful? Let's go just a little bit more in the center, just so it's really, really bright. Oh, that's so lovely. I just love that. That turned out real cute. And I think I'm going to use a little bit of honey butter. And I'm going to splatter just a little. And I think I'm getting it all the opposite way versus from where I want it. There we go. Lovely. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside to dry for a second, and we're going to build the rest of our card. So then when that is ready, then we can just put that onto our card. All right, let's grab that 4 by 5 1/4 piece. Well, it was not 4 by 5 1/4. It was 5 1/4 by 8 inch piece. And this is going to get adhered where you have that largest section. That is what's going to get adhered to the inside of our card. So let's put some adhesive on this. And I do want to be a little more generous. And you can definitely put it on the center this time, because this is that mechanism that's going to wiggle and move. So I'm going to place this so it is centered in my card. Okay, and now I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to close it using my hand. And now I'm going to close the front of my card. And we need to place our yellow circle. But when we go to adhere this, remember we only want the one side for the adhesive. And I'm being very, very generous. Okay, and that is going to go just like so. So now if I lift up, I have that yellow piece here as the window. Okay. So let's close this back up. So now we can decide, do we want to put this back on with this over it? That's very possible. What if we used the opposite side and then this? I don't think that has enough of an impact. It's not enough of a punch. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this for another card. And I'm going to take what we just heat embossed, and I'm going to let that speak for itself on the center. But let's put some foam on it, because it definitely needs some foam. Because everything's better when it's raised up just a hair. Okay, let's peel our backings off. Isn't this just so pretty? Okay, so now I'm going to center my stamped image. Oops, my card wiggled on me. There we go. And I'm going to center that in, just like that. And now I'm going to put a few little stones. And these are the holographic resin dots. I felt these would not detract from our card, but they would add just that nice little balance. All right, I'm going to put one over here, and then I'll put a tiny one. I think I'll put a tiny one up here actually on the yellow. So the outside says thanks so much, which I didn't stamp it well enough with the embossing. And now I'm going to open. And this is where you could even bring this back in. You could put half of it. You could cut half of it. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to leave that off completely. And I'm going to stamp my inside sentiment. I will not emboss this though. Actually, I think I want to go a little lower, because if I had left it here, let's just see. Oh, it will be hidden, so it's okay. I could keep it up on the higher end. All right, let's grab a block. And I don't want to ink my inside sentiment with honey butter. I think it's too light. So I am going to pull in this green color, which for me, it's going to be Avocado, because I don't have any other greens from Stampin' Up. And I think Avocado would be lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp this right about here. Let it set for a second. Oh, perfect. Absolutely perfect. And then I have another sunflower. I wonder how that would look. Oh, that might look very, very pretty. Let's see if I close. Yeah, we'd be okay. So let's actually use that. And we're going to use honey butter now. However, I want to stamp off because I want it more like a second generation. So let's grab another block. this one's gonna fit. Oh yeah, it'll fit. Perfect. All right. Let's ink this up. And I'm gonna stamp off. Oh yeah, that's great. All right, I do need a little bit of a stamping surface underneath. All right, so I'm gonna stamp off. So I'm actually only using second generation, just so that there's just that little hint on the inside of my card. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you can see that. Let me raise this up just a bit so that you can actually see the inside. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? It's so soft. And then I would just fold this down, and then I would fold the top of my card down. What a pretty card! We made such a beautiful card. Now this was one that we were going to do way back in May when it was crazy land at school. So I'm glad that we finally got through and did this one. All right, let's take a peek at our supplies for next week. Next week is called Shadow Stamping Technique. So it's going to be using some stamps. And again, you're going to need a 4 1/4 by 11 piece of cardstock for your base. And you're going to score that at 5 1/2. So that's going to be this. Now I have done a test run just so I could kind of see how it looks. And you will need white ink and then a darker ink after that. So that will be the beauty of the stamping effect. You will also need 2 circles, a 2 and a 2 1/2, or if you have like 2 1/2 and 3, whatever, you know, but 2 circles. You will need a little banner or piece of white that is that's a 1/2 by 2 1/2. We're going to need a piece of cardstock, small ribbon. Yeah, I could, Joy, you're right. I could use a little bit of ribbon. I could even do like a tiny little belly band. Yeah, I could do all kinds of things with this. So pretty. But you will need a piece of cardstock that's 2 by 5, a piece of pattern paper that is 3 3/4 by 5, and then another piece of cardstock 4 by 5 1/4. So those are what we're going to need for next week. I will post it on Wednesday so that then you know what we're going to be needing. And get out your favorite stamps that are more of a border-ish stamp. Okay, just so you understand. Let me see if I can find mine. So I am using Endless Friendship. That is what I'll be using next week. All right, and you'll need a white ink pad and then a deeper, darker color. All righty, so I will see all of you next Sunday at 7 o'clock. For our Sunday Fun Day. Have a super duper week, ladies, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye-bye.